Hey, everybody, John Harris here with you with my pal Billy Smith, and it is that time of the year, so we've decided we're going to go ahead and do a comprehensive sports show. Our band was kicking ass there, Bill. Do a comprehensive sports show at least weekly, and sometimes when special events occur, like of course, the next couple of weeks, we'll have a few of them because NFL football is about to start and NCAA football has kind of started, but I think it gets into its bigger part of the schedule this week. We can chat about that a little bit, but we're going to try and make this more comprehensive about more sports. And I'm here with my buddy Billy Smith, and Billy has breaking news.
Jalen Rieger was traded from Philadelphia to Minnesota Vikings in exchange for a 2023 seventh round pick and a conditional 2024 fourth round draft pick.
Wow. So two lower round draft picks for Jalen Rieger from Philadelphia to Minnesota, which I was interested why they kept him yesterday on the roster. I guess they figure, well, we can get a couple of draft picks and maybe, a water boy. There's a first round pick that didn't pan out, huh?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I don't even know why Minnesota did it. They have three good receivers, so
Well,
I
if you
don't
use
know.
a three receiver set, I guess you might need backup, or maybe they
Yeah,
think he'll be a good special teamer. I don't know, but obviously he wasn't panning out in Philly, and you never know. It could be another Aguilar situation. He could go to Minnesota and become an all pro. Who knows? Sometimes you need that change. So this is from the cheap seats, everybody, and it's because we're just two guys who watch sports from the cheap seats. Probably the
yeah.
cheapest seats you can get. Your house, unless you're paying an astronomical mortgage, and then not that cheap a seat, um, but it's really expensive to go to an arena or a ballpark to try and watch sports. So watch them from the cheap seats. I know I
Sure.
do. I sit back, watch it at home, pop open whatever I'm going to
Yeah,
have as a
pop open
beverage.
one here and just
Grab there you go,
drink
have a
away.
couple of snacks, and as we're recording, that news story broke that Bill just had. We have crawls going, and we're going to try and stay on top of anything that might happen. But we can chat about a couple of the drops and everything already in football. So what's going to happen the next couple of weeks is we're going to try and do the show at least weekly. For now, we're going to have probably a couple special event shows to kick off the NFL season. Um, Sometime next week, we will air a show where Bill and I, like we did last year, will make our playoff picks, who we think's going to go where. Reason we wait a little bit is to see, like, after as we record this, it's Wednesday. So yesterday was the deadline for cutting your roster down to 53 if you were in the NFL. So there were some people that were dropped, and couple of them are interesting. And sorry, there was some crowd noise in the background. We had you might think we had a loud studio audience getting excited, but no, we got that done. Um, so we're going to chat about a couple of those, and then by this time next week, or maybe even a little sooner, we'll be able to sit back and tell you mostly who's went where and how we think it's going to impact teams and who we think is going to win divisions and playoff spots, and we'll be ready to go. And then a couple of days after, and I lean on Bill heavily for this, but I'll have some input, is we will do a show about our fantasy leagues or who we think the fantasy picks could be. We'll try to get that to you as soon as we can because, some of you may have last minute fantasy league drafts. So, or maybe somebody under the radar you'll recognize as we go through it and you'll go, hey, maybe I can grab that guy. So we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. But meanwhile, we're here, and Bill, we had a couple interesting drops this week as of yesterday.
Yes.
Marlon Mack, I think, from Tennessee, who used to be on one of your old teams.
That's a real surpriser for me. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened there myself. I mean, I know he's not the starter. I think they got a draft pick that they're going to have the starter, but you can't have enough good running backs. I mean, look what happens with Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders. Wasn't it Mostert for San Francisco got hurt first game of the year? I
Mhm.
mean, things happen in football. It's I mean, you just don't know. And to drop a guy like that, I mean, I would have at least probably kept him like Philly just did with Rieger. Try to get a couple draft picks.
Yeah.
So that surprised me, like you said, that he was dropped. Um, I believe Oakland's dropped some guys that were okay but not great, and dropped a couple of them because they're from the old regime, and they're trying to weed out anybody that might have still agreed with that philosophy um, under Mayock and Gruden. So they're trying to revamp under Josh McDaniels that whole thing.
Yep.
Had some coaching changes, right?
Yeah. Terrible with names, but Minnesota has the offensive coordinator from the Rams.
Oh, right. And you know what? I'm terrible with names as well. What?
And I
Go ahead.
think that's going to be. I think Minnesota's going to be a surprising team. I think they're going to come out and instead of try to be a 50-50 running team, passing team to I think maybe like 60-40. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a good year.
Well, you're right about changing everything up. I mean, Mike Zimmer was run, 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 defense and run. So Minnesota's probably going to try and open it up because though Kirk Cousins isn't the greatest quarterback, he's also not the worst, and he throws up some good numbers.
Yep.
So you're right about one thing is that they might open it up a little bit. I mean, he had great years in Washington when they opened it up because they had to. Their defense wasn't great, so when he was quarterbacking in DC, he had to fire a lot of passes when Griffith got hurt and he got in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's a good enough quarterback. So maybe it's time to say, what if we got here? And so maybe that'll work.
Yeah.
And you got Josh McDaniel in Oakland.
Yes. That should be interesting.
Yeah, longtime offensive coordinator. Only was a head coach one other time in Denver, very short amount of time, but took them to the playoffs with Tim Tebow as quarterback. All right. Tim Tebow can't land a job as a water boy now in the NFL, but that year, because of injuries, he got to play and he had a big touchdown pass to the late Demaryius Thomas. And I'll spend a minute on that. That's a shame. Young guy in his 30s, passing away like that. They said he did have CTE as well as some other issues. He passed away from a seizure. Because at first, when you hear about an NFL guy either passing away or getting in trouble, you automatically think, oh, it's drugs, it's alcohol. This was a situation where he had seizures and it's been verified that he had CTE. And of course, you can't confirm that until after you pass away.
Right.
So, and they think, but they wouldn't come out and say it 100% that that's what was causing his seizures. So, and they found him, I believe, in his bathtub from it was getting a shower, and he had a seizure and passed away. Good receiver, and will always be remembered in Denver for that touchdown pass from Tim Tebow.
Yes.
But good young man, and he just was unfortunate. So there are some situations that I mean, the late Glenn Dawson passed away last week. He was 87. First Kansas City Chief quarterback to ever get in the Super Bowl. He was in Super Bowl I with the Chiefs against the Packers. Yep. And the first Chiefs quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl when they beat Minnesota in Super Bowl IV, which was the very next year after Namath won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl III. So yeah, I know you were a Colts fan. You were little kids, but you were a Colts fan. I know you were like, you got to admit, somebody egged Namath on, and that was enough for their defense to say, because Namath didn't light the place on fire, but he did guarantee a win.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they said that Eubank saw him the next day and called him in the office and reamed him out. You don't let a sleeping dog lie. But, and the defense held it up because it was like 16-7, I think.
Yeah, 16-7. I think it's 16-7, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't like a rout. But the Jets did hold the upper hand the whole time. what scared me, I remember watching it as a kid. Earl Morrow, I think, started because Unitas was hurt and had a very bad arm. And at one point, he went to Shula and said, "You got to get me in there. This ain't working." And and he started taking him down the field. And I think if they'd gotten in the end zone that one drive, they might have had enough time to do it. But he couldn't throw the long ball, so that was pretty. His shoulder was shot. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame he passed away. Yes, he was 87, but Hall of Famer. And he's one of them rare guys. He's a Hall of Famer as a broadcaster as well as a player. So, R.I.P. Len Dawson, and there were some other folks that we lost as well. But we'll get it back on a higher note here. Going to be an interesting season. A lot of people are picking Philly to win the Eastern Division now. They think they're loaded. What do you think? I think in Philly, I think Jalen Hurts has got a chance to prove himself, or I think it's going to be sink or swim.
Yep, I think so too.
Yeah, if he doesn't, if he can't handle all the skill people he's got there, I mean, big move that people are forgetting to talk about is them going out and signing getting AJ Brown.
Yeah, it's definitely a great pickup.
Yeah,
definitely great pickup.
Yeah.
But we'll see if Hurst could get him the ball.
Yeah, Miami picks up and trades for Tyreek Hill. That could hurt the Chiefs. It also obviously should help Tua, who's now in the same boat almost as Hill, or as Hurts. I'm sorry, it's Jalen Hurts. He's got to produce now. Up. Yep. If he can't, he's not going to be a starter much longer. So I don't know the status. I don't know if you've read about it. Jameis Winston. I know he was hurt in the preseason, but is he out or back? Do you know?
I haven't heard the latest on him. I believe he's going to be okay, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I think he's going to be there for week 1, but obviously they're holding him out until then. New coach in New Orleans, of course, is their old offensive coordinator, who was under Sean Payton for a long time. So we'll see what happens there. Saw that John Gruden's apologizing to people and hopes he gets another chance. I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. I don't even think he's going to get on TV. I think everybody's just afraid of the blowback and the reputation now.
Yeah. Getting back to Winston.
Yes.
He played the other day. It was 4 for 59 yards against the Chargers.
Okay.
He was moving well in the pocket, and
That's
didn't seem like the ACL didn't bother him.
Okay.
So it looks like he's okay.
Well, that's good. That'll be good for New Orleans then. Then you got Tom Brady. You know what amazes me about this Tom Brady situation is the guy was retired, so I'm sure he made plans with his family. Now, Bill, I'm not a big Tom Brady fan. I mean, I sincerely came within inches of losing my life in a bar in Boston, or outside Boston suburbs, because I'm sitting there in Eagles gear when they're playing the Patriots. So I'm just not a good idea in Boston, as the reverse wouldn't be a good idea in Philly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the weird part is 4 or 5 of the guys, 1 or 2 were cops, and I was a cop at the time in Boston. I was working for Homeland Security and stuff. None of us ever decided to find that out. And then what happened was the bartender called the police, and they come walking in, and one guy knew me right away. He said, "Johnny, what's going on?" And the guys were like, "What? How's this cop know this guy?" And he goes, "Oh, he's one of us." Oh, son of a. But I really thought I was gonna, I never said, and it hasn't been just that. I just sometimes, and you got to give the guy his due. I mean, he's no matter what you say about him, he keeps performing well enough. I could probably move better in the pocket than him, and I got 2 artificial knees. But you know what? He can throw the ball. I can't throw it anymore with 10 yards now. Oh, jeez.
That he can.
He can still throw the ball. So, taking as long as he goes through the team for whatever reason and says, "Hey, I need to take some time off." Probably did it before he signed his contract and said, "Hey, I'm going to return, but I made plans with my family." So you know what? You make plans with a supermodel
Yeah, I mean,
who he already had to convince to let him play because she doesn't want him playing anymore.
right.
She's been trying to get him to hang him up for like 4 or 5 years.
But wonder why he wants to come back and play. I wonder.
It's got to be competition because it's not money. I mean, he gets endorsement money out the wazoo. He still makes a pretty good salary, even though he did it in New
He
England
took
too.
a pay cut, yeah.
Takes a pay cut so the team can sign good players. I mean, there is a lot of positives about Tom Brady. There's just something about him. And I'm not the only one. He's a pretty boy. He wasn't always. I mean, he's a 7th round chunky draft pick for a quarterback who ran about a 40 in about a week and a half. But he did what he did. So I think people are making too much out of this time off deal. He knows the offense. He knows the players.
Mhm.
I think they're making too much out of it. What about you?
I don't know because when they interviewed the coach, he seemed a little distance from it. So I mean, unless he was playing it up or something, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, I'm sure he had to know what was going on. So I mean,
Right.
So I guess him being mum about it probably was the best bet. I guess.
I think so. Probably. Maybe he didn't know that was going to happen, but the team knew, and they didn't pass it on to him until a couple days before. Or Tom walks in and goes, "Okay, I'm not going to be here Monday, right?" What? What you talking about, Willis? So that could be something that happened too, or maybe like you said, he just wasn't happy about it. But he's going to be fine,
Mhm.
and he's already back in camp, and they'll be fine. Other NFL news. I don't know if you have anything. I don't pay attention to scores in the preseason. I'll watch, as long as the starters are in, I watch it to see kind of how they do sometimes. Other than that, I don't.
No, I don't. I haven't been following the scores, but one interesting is the rookie running back for Washington Commanders.
Oh, yes.
He got robbed and shot twice, at least twice. So it's a sad situation.
In the buttocks and the same leg, lower,
Yes.
higher leg. But, well, good news, Bill, and I don't know if you heard this, but they put it out today. He was actually at the facility today. He's been released from the hospital, and he was at the team facility today. Whether he'll be ready for the first couple games of the season is obviously questionable, but he is going to fully recover. He was at the Washington facility today, and they're going to help with his PT and all that stuff, his rehab. So that's good news for him. It really is. Now, there was a report out there, I think it was erroneous, that he either shot back or he disabled his robber, and he may have disabled him, but he didn't have a gun or anything like that. So, but yeah, they were going to try and rob him.
Yeah, so it's good that he's on the mend.
Yeah.
It's not a funny situation. I had a fantasy draft the other day, and I think it was like 8th round. Antonio Gibson was out there, and I knew he'd lost his spot for starting job. So I took him anyway.
Yeah.
Most teams use 2 running backs anyway.
Oh yeah.
And then like 2 hours later, my phone starts blowing up that
what'd you know?
Gibson was the steal of the draft, I think. And I'm like, I'm looking, couldn't find anything, and then found out that the guy got carjacked and shot. And
but and you don't want nothing like that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So
but good for him that he's going to be back at some point. And like you said, most teams use 2 running backs at this point. So I mean, drafting the number 2 guy on a team, if he's a good back, isn't always a bad thing. So a couple interesting games week 1. Obviously, we weren't making our picks yet, but a couple of takes week 1. The game I'm really going to be interested in. A guy on NFL Network today was talking about they should have flex games in the very first week. put Cleveland at Carolina Sunday night. That game is going to be really interesting. Baker Mayfield going against his old team, who won't have Deshaun Watson, because obviously he's got to serve that. Was it 12 game suspension?
11 games suspension.
11 games, 12 weeks, something like that, because there's a bye in there. And he can't even work out or anything. But here's where Cleveland's biting the bullet. Fully guaranteed contract. He still is getting paid.
Yep.
Last I knew, even though the NFL suspended him, he still gets paid.
Yep.
And he got paid for all last year, even though he didn't play. I'm like, and that you're talking double-digit millions of dollars.
Yeah, you wonder if it's vice versa how it should go. I mean, he doesn't play and gets paid. You
Right.
think you let him get paid? Let him play. I mean,
Yeah, I let him play and not pay him.
yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing, from the legal standpoint, there's still one civil case pending, by the way. He's not completely out of the woods. They haven't settled all of them. Apparently, Houston PD, where these all took place, doesn't have enough evidence, physical evidence, to say we can charge him criminally. It would be those victims' word against him, and most face it, situations like that, most victims don't want to become public.
Correct.
And rightfully, and no matter what, somehow it would probably get out if they end up in court. But the other part of this too is, from the legal standpoint, there's still a case pending. A settlement doesn't necessarily mean he's admitting guilt, which he's still denying guilt or liability in this case. But the employer, the NFL, doesn't have to abide by a court recommendation, and that's why they were able to still suspend him. But the deal was, he made that deal. They were still trying to suspend him for a whole season. But if you're one of the victims, I mean, how's this make you feel? You're mixed, because if you're suing because you want some compensation, you kind of want them to play with pay. You want them to get paid, because you got to get paid.
Right.
If that's what you're going for. And I'm sure that's what the attorney said to them is, if we push this, he might be sitting out, and the NFL may decide we can trump Cleveland's contract because he's out on disciplinary action. My understanding now is the deal is he's going to get paid because the union and the league came to an agreement, and that's why it's only 12 games.
And the owner
behind
him.
Right. And
Basically.
yeah.
I mean,
he's on his way to rehabilitating his personality. Yeah, okay. So are inmates in prisons too. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Charles Manson was rehabilitating for how many years? I wouldn't let him out. Sirhan, come on. I think they did eventually let him out, but that's a whole different thing. So that's an interesting take, but for at least the first 11 weeks, 12 weeks, no Deshaun Watson.
Nope.
Which means probably play everybody in the division at least one time, maybe two, with a couple of them. And you're talking Cincinnati, you're talking Baltimore, and you're really talking Pittsburgh, who may not be great, but without your number one quarterback, that's a division game. You just don't know. So, going to be interesting.
Yes.
Going to be interesting.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson hasn't signed a new contract yet, and says once the season starts, he's not negotiating, and he's his own agent. So
that could be a problem right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And you got
I don't think he's the brightest bulb in the package. I think, and I don't know him personally, but
I'll bet there's somebody in his ear though, and giving him some advice. I'm sure. The thing for me with Lamar Jackson is, if he gets hurt,
Yeah.
He's taking a heck of a risk, man.
Mhm.
You got to be careful. But the other end of that is,
But yeah,
if
the other end is you got other teams that probably he still hasn't proved himself. He hasn't.
Mhm.
He's one dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an MVP, but yeah, he hasn't been quite the same since. But he is always dangerous. I mean, you just don't know. I
Oh,
mean, and
sure.
that's what some teams may say. You know what? He's a danger every time he gets the ball. I mean, he's electric. He's a good player. The other part of that, though, Bill, if you're him, you got to say, I'm as good as Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I'm as good as you could. I mean, in his mind, if he didn't think he was that good, he wouldn't be there. I'm as good as Russell Wilson. I'm as good as, this guy and that guy.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
no
should be
doubt.
paid. And he
Yes.
probably wants to be, and he probably thinks, and they've had some great showdowns. I'm as good as Patrick Mahomes. So he wants probably Murray Mahomes kind of money. And when you look at an NFL players, especially quarterback, they could play like Tom Brady 25 or 25 years or whatever, or they could be done with one hit tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you do have to look out for your future. And if you have a family, you will probably your family's future. So I don't always blame these guys, especially in football, for trying to get as much as they can. Are the
Right.
salaries outrageous? Yeah, but you know what? Somebody's paying them.
Yeah. And I'm sure if he was smart enough, he would have a nice some type of insurance policy.
Oh
So
yeah.
I mean,
And so will and the Ravens probably will too. If they ever go sign him, they'll be like, okay, we need to insure this policy.
yes.
I mean, if he, how many times, at least in baseball, did you see guys not play anymore but not retire for like 4 or 5 years because insurance was paying their salaries to the team, who then was paying them, and if they said they retired, they wouldn't be getting paid anymore.
Right.
So it was all money grab. So
Mhm.
yeah, you have situations like that. We'll phase out of the NFL here a little bit. We've got about half hour or so left. We may tackle it or go back in it. And if you think of anything, or if we see a updated news thing on one of either our crawls or our computer screens, we certainly can interrupt and interject here. But you are watching and listening to From the Cheapseats, where Bill and I are going through right now, mostly NFL, but we're going to tackle a couple other sporting issues. But before we do, I want to let you know that we do have a sponsor, and thanks to him and his company, they help keep us going afloat. He sponsors everything on Public John Media, and that's my friend Dennis Ingraldi, and he is in charge of Vineland Realty Corp in Vineland, New Jersey. They are at 634 East Landis Avenue in Vineland. You can call them at 856-690-9482. And the best thing to do with Dennis is to let him know that you've got some kind of a property need, and it could be buying, it could be selling, it could be renting. You might want to rent a property or a business. Dennis and his folks down there at Vineland Realty be more than glad to help you. And if it's something they can't help you with, Dennis has the ability to look up, and he has a lot of friends in the business too, all over the place. So he'll refer you to people as well. So that's Vineland Realty Corporation. Contact Dennis at 856-690-9482, or pop in their office if you're in the Vineland area. They'll go all over South Jersey to give you a hand with whatever you need. They're 634 East Landis Avenue in Vineland, New Jersey, and tell them that you came in from Public John Media or from the Cheapseats, and that John and Bill sent you in. So we thank Dennis for his support, and we're going to phase back into the show, but we want to take a moment and thank Dennis for helping us out. Meanwhile, Bill, one of Dennis's favorite sports is, and I forgot to mention this to you the other day, is golf. I mean, what do you think of this? We haven't talked since they've started this LIV tour and the LIV tour against the PGA tour. And now LIV golfers are trying to sue the PGA, and it's a mess. It's a mess, man.
To be honest, I haven't followed it much either, but I guess I know why then.
Yeah. Oh, Bill, if you get a chance to read up on some of this, it is a gigantic.
Huh.
I mean, you had Phil Mickelson leave, of course. Greg Norman's running it for LIV. Of course, it's Saudi Arabia backed money and astronomical sums of money they're paying these guys to go. But they offered Tiger Woods 800 million. He turned it down to stay with the PGA. But Tiger is in a different situation than everybody else in golf.
Sure.
He doesn't need it. But you got some golfers out there that are probably towing the line that they've said, hey, come on over, we'll give you some money, that are going to make more than they will ever make the rest of their lives by touring. But there are some rule changes too and rule differences. So you play as go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it's probably good for the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's no different in soccer overseas compared to here. I mean, it should go hand in hand and help each other. I mean, I would think.
What's ironic or funny is Phil Mickelson, who the PGA has basically thrown out because he joins them and he kind of blasted the PGA. But he did give his reasons why there's problems with the PGA. This last couple of weeks, the PGA has changed some rules addressing Phil's concerns. And everybody's like, wait a minute. At first, they were all like, oh, Phil's just rambling and he's blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. He might have been right about some of these things. Of course, he's also getting astronomical sums of money. And a couple of guys lately have said, we went, and they're honest, at least be honest and say, hey, I went for the checks. Don't lie about it. But Phil did make some points apparently, and the PGA was like, we might have to change this to keep some of these guys. I think yesterday it became official that the number 2 player on the tour, Cameron Smith, who is Australian and won the US Open, I believe, is now left and went to the LIV tour. So a lot of top name guys are going. Koepka went, I believe. Bryson DeChambeau went. A lot of top PGA guys did go. And some of the older guys who have big names, and that's what they wanted to do, was draw some names.
Sure.
So, folks, let us know what you think. Of course, you can get a hold of us at thepublicjohn@outlook.com, on the Facebook page where this will be posted, or on publicjohnmedia.com. There is a section there where you can interact with us. So, or on the Facebook page, like we said, either in Messenger or as your own post if you want. Don't be afraid to ask us questions, and if we don't know the answer, we'll try and find out for you. But this LIV golf situation is a debatable thing. I mean, people are going to be on it's a very big dividing line right there. Big thing right now, this time of the year, is baseball's getting ready for their postseason, Bill.
Woohoo! For the first time in about 10 years, I'm thrilled.
You should be. And tell us why you're thrilled, my friend.
Oh, because my lonely Baltimore Orioles are 3 games out of the wild card spot.
How about that? The Orioles are in a pennant race. Who would ever think that would happen again in our lifetime?
Not me.
Give them credit. A lot of young guys, they grabbed a lot of minor leaguers and some baseball draft choices, and somebody did some scouting work. And somehow they've gotten the owner to keep his hands off. That's the key to me. He's always meddled and tried to cut money and everything else, but
just always looking for the bottom line dollar.
Yes, he is. Well, even this year, he traded their best player in Trey Mancini.
Yes,
he traded him, and he wanted to stay.
And he may be back next year. I think they just
I think it was
you got to get something for it. And they just brought up the number 1 prospect in Gunnar Henderson, so he should be not sure if he'll be the starting lineup. But
who's their center fielder? I really like him. I can't remember.
Mullins.
Yes, Mullins. I really like him. He's a good player.
And their catcher that they brought up halfway through the season, Adderley Rasmussen.
Okay.
and he's been doing really well.
That's good. That's good. And it's funny because they're in the hunt, yet you got a team like the Padres who go out and spend all this money. Even the Phillies have like the fourth or fifth highest payroll. And they better pick it up quick
Sure.
because they're starting to tank. I mean, they're playing Arizona, and I think the only thing Arizona missed was an extra point the last 2 nights.
And it ticks me off because I bet on them when they're losing, and I don't bet when they win. It's just it's an
You
aggravating.
can't, to me, you can't tell what's going to happen because both sides of the ball are inconsistent. The pitching, I mean, the other day you have a 7-0 lead and you lose 13-7.
Yeah, that was the one game I went to bed when it was 7.
Yeah, I almost did, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh, I'll stick around," because after that it was 7. And they just sent 12. Arizona sent 12 batters to the plate in the 4th inning. I'm like, "You're up 7-0 now." What even? And you just knew. And then I'll be honest, I don't even know what the score final was last night. Last I knew it was 9-0 Arizona.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me see
I don't
real
know.
quick.
I don't know what it was because I got disgusted. I didn't watch it at all last night. I said, you know what? I turned it on for like 2 minutes in the beginning and went,
Yeah.
you know what? This sucks.
12-3.
12-3.
12-3.
And that was with Aaron Nola pitching last night. So Wheeler's out still. I don't know if he's back this weekend or not, but he's been out hurt. So what do they have? I mean, Gibson's great today and stinks next start. And it's just awful. Suarez, in the 4th, he's thrown 3 perfect innings. All of a sudden in the 4th, they were hitting rockets off him, which was the 2nd time through the batting order. And everybody's like, well, analytics, blah, 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 analytics sucks. That's one of those things that you do learn in analytics is 2nd or 3rd time through the batting order, you better change your pitching a lot of times, unless you get a guy that's like, Scherzer or DeGrom or somebody like that. Syndergaard, you don't know what he's going to do because he doesn't have his fastball back.
No.
Tommy John, but he's in that first year out. So you're thinking he's going to get it, but probably not this season.
Right.
And I don't know if he's signed through next year or not. Or if this is his contract year. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
I like Suarez, but they're going to have to do something with him. I actually liked him better when they had him as a closer a couple years ago. But then they were desperate. They needed to stretch him out, make him a starter, and you hope you get 5 or 6 good innings out of him. Go to your bullpen, but the other night, and their bullpen's hurting too because he couldn't go to the bullpen right away. Suarez gave up that whole lead, I think, before they even went to the bullpen or close to it.
Might have to bring Mitch Williams back or something.
Yeah. After that, they brought in Sanchez. He got the last out to get out of the 4th, but then the next inning, he let guys on and he walked in 2 or 3 guys. Then the next guy to come in, Bellotti, walked in another guy. It was just that's what it was. They put a 6 spot up for 2 straight innings, the 4th and 5th.
See, that goes back to baseball 101. You don't let them hit the ball. Why give them a free base walking? I don't get it.
Yeah, I saw something, and you know what? I saw it. I kind of like him, though he's always a Debbie Downer. I kind of like him. Is Ricky Vitalico. He will say exactly what he thinks. You may not agree with him, but when it comes to the Phillies, he'll tell you exactly and baseball in general. He'll tell you what he thinks. And the other day, he was saying exactly the same thing you were saying. Throw the fastball. Why? You're throwing a breaking ball that's starting about a foot outside and then it's tailing off. Why on ball 3? Why are you throwing that pitch? It's not working. After the first couple of times you see it's not working, don't throw it. And where's your catcher? In that case, last night it was Stubbs. Night before it's Real Muto. Everybody's like, Real Muto is great with pitchers. Well, I don't know if he is or not because he's letting them throw these breaking balls. Ball 4, run in. Ball 4, run in. I thought I was watching Major League and Ricky Vaughn. Ball 12, how can they lay off pitches that close? Just a bit high. I mean, I just don't understand it. He was right. throw the fastball. It's the best pitch in baseball.
Yep.
What's the worst thing could happen? They hit it. Well, it's a lot better than walking in runs.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm with you on that. Throw the fastball. And if you can't locate the fastball to get hit, that's when you bring somebody else in. And first thing the manager's got to say to him is, look, throw your fastball. If you get your breaking ball over the plate, all right, we can live with that. But after one or two, get to the fastball.
Yeah.
If you don't have a fastball, you know, and you're in a jam, that ain't the guy you bring in.
Right.
So I don't know. But if you think about it, for the last 4 or 5 years, the Phillies have always looked like they've been in contention to get a wild card spot or something at the end of the year, and they choke this time of year.
Yeah.
The last year or two under Gabe Kaplan. Then they did it every year under Girardi. And now you hope Thompson or somebody can figure it out and say, hey, but if I'm right, this is Dombrowski's first year with the Phillies as an executive, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's some changes at the end of the season. And Thompson's technically only an interim manager anyway.
Right.
So if they collapse, you know he's not going to keep the job. They'll be out looking. If somehow they make it through and they get on a winning streak, he might hang on to it. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, this West Coast trip might be the doom of them.
This might be the one. They still got to play San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
And then I think the Dodgers, isn't it?
That
I think it might be the Dodgers. So,
no, San Francisco plays the Dodgers. It's
okay. Well, then maybe it's the Padres.
they're back home against Miami.
They're back home.
Good. Yeah.
Well, hey, Miami plays them tough every time. So that's no cakewalk either. So and the way they're playing, nobody's a cakewalk. Arizona shouldn't have been this tough. So, other baseball news. I mean, you got Aaron Judge. He hit his 51st last night, I believe. I know he hit 51. I don't know if it's last night or the night before, but he's having a heck of a year. It's going to be interesting to see who the AL MVP is. Is it going to be Ohtani or is it going to be Aaron Judge? I don't know who else it could be, and to me, Ohtani, I don't know. I mean, here's a guy, he pitches well.
He pitches, hits.
He hits, runs the bases. He can play the outfield. He doesn't have to DH. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Aaron Judge plays well. I mean, he can DH, obviously. Plays a good right field, has a gun for an arm, but yeah, he doesn't pitch. But here's the difference. Aaron Judge is helping the Yankees get to the postseason.
Right.
Ohtani's not.
No,
but is it Ohtani's fault? I mean, he's got a decent player with him in Rendon. Great player with him in Mike Trout when he's not hurt. And I love Mike Trout. He's a hustler. He's a gamer. To me, he's a great player. And he's good PR, even though he doesn't want to be the big name celebrity.
Right.
But I give him credit. He's still a positive influence on kids. But other than that, they don't have anything else they're kind of like the Phillies. They've got no pitching. They were obviously happy to trade away Brandon Marsh to the Phillies because he can't. I could get a base hit before he can, I think. That guy can't hit. He's a great center fielder. Okay. I can find you a lot of great, fast defensive center fielders that can't hit. Okay. There's a lot of them. The Phillies have 2 or 3 other guys you might as well just keep in the lineup. So, I mean, he's not showing me anything. But they've had some injuries out there too. So, but just in center, I mean, they've been able. Vreeling has helped out a lot, and he's just as good as Marsh defensively. I think, if not, he's close. I just don't see the only thing that came good out of the Marsh deal was Syndergaard came up, and with Eflin hurt, they did need another starter. So, I'd like to see them keep Syndergaard, even if he's only a number 3 or 4 starter. I think he could get his arm back. I mean, this is his first season after Tommy Johnson.
Yeah, well, you need 5. You
need 5, and Eflin's been hurt. Now, I think he'll be back next year. You got Suarez, and you got Nola, and you got Wheeler. So to me, that would be a pretty good 5, a decent 5. Gibson's still in the hunt too, I guess. So when you look at it, baseball wise, I think Dodgers are going to run away with the West. They still are. The Mets are hanging on in the East, but I think they're going to barely hang on to it over Atlanta. I think
It's only 3 games.
it's not much. I know the Braves have gained like crazy.
And the Dodgers are 19.5. Holy moly.
Over the next, yeah, that's over,
Over
who,
the
San Diego,
Padres.
right?
Yeah, holy moly. I never.
Yeah, it's huge. It's been huge all season. Tatis, of course, with the 80-game suspension for steroids for San Diego. That's just, and he's coming up with different excuses. He was coming up with different excuses every day. Oh, my doctor prescribed it for this condition. And,
Of course.
it was a mistake. I didn't know. Yeah, like Rafael Palmeiro before Congress. And then test positive.
Should have just kept his mouth shut. He'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Sat there and go, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. He would have been in the Hall of Fame with his numbers. And he was a good player. But no. What are you gonna do? I mean, he did what he did. And now he's tarnished. No matter what he does the rest of his baseball career, he's tarnished with an 80-game suspension.
And you know what's funny too? Getting back to Rafael Palmeiro, we always discuss this too. The government should have nothing to do with MLB.
You know what? The money they spend on investigating things like sports. You know how many basic houses you could buy for a veteran, a homeless veteran, or a homeless person? I mean, because I guarantee that was $2, $3, $4 million of wasted money.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Congressman shouldn't give a rat's ass about somebody in baseball using steroids. Let baseball run that.
Yep.
If you cheated in baseball, well, then we're going to punish you in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Instead you got and then you try to charge Barry Bonds for lying to Congress or refusing to deal with Congress or lying under oath about cheating in baseball. All right. And he still denies it to this day. They've never found a positive test. I'm thinking it's pretty obvious because the guy's head was 2 times the size of a watermelon.
When he was a pencil, when he was a pencil in Pittsburgh,
he's big around as my pinky in Pittsburgh, and then he goes to San Francisco, and a year later his head's the size of the Great Pumpkin. You can't get a hat to fit him. Come on, and now he's back to normal size. He's not skinny like he was in his 20s, but he's back to a normal looking human. I mean, his numbers are always going to be skewed, and they should be. Same with Mark McGwire. He didn't admit it, and he should have probably. He admitted taking andro and creatine, which at the time were not banned substances. They are now. He should have just admitted that right up front and said they weren't banned. They were seen in his locker, so I mean, it's obvious. And of course, you had Canseco come out with a book. I injected this guy. I injected McGwire. I did this. I did that. But Canseco is not exactly known as the bearer of truth all the time.
He's not wrapped too tight.
No, he don't have all the marbles that came in the little bag. So but he could be. Some of it's got to be true. You
would think. Yep.
But. Yeah, MLB still got some problems, but when you look at the season, I like everything they did, except I hate the DH in the National League because now there's no difference between the leagues at all. So when you play in the World Series, it's even going to be worse next year because now every team is going to play every team starting next season.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, why even bother? I mean, call it a championship if you want. I mean, it's like the Super Bowl. Everybody plays everybody. Well, they actually don't play everybody, so that's kind of why it's okay still. But boy, the World Series, you could have 2 teams to play it at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And they're back now 3 weeks later to play. There's no difference. The DH is the same.
You know what MLB, and and it won't ever happen, but I think they need to go to a 140 game schedule. And because first of all, you shouldn't be playing in November, World Series in November. That's just
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
But maybe put a couple extra teams in the playoffs instead of a 1 game playoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
I think that first round of wild cards is a 1 game playoff, if I'm not mistaken.
yes.
But maybe even the second round, have the 2 wild card teams play, and it's a 3 game instead of 5
best
or
of
7.
3. Well, yeah, best of 3 or something. I mean, 1 game, you're basing everything on.
Right, the better
on 1
record
game,
gets the 2 game. That's all. That's the way it should be. So yeah, you're right. There's some problem, but here's like you said, they'll never go backwards on the schedule.
Right, because of revenue.
I mean, you'd have to make it so it's evenly divided to teams, either 144 games or I think 154 games, or the 162 they have now.
Right.
You'll never see the regular season go below 162 unless they figure out a way to make the postseason an even bigger tournament, involve more teams, but then cut it down to so that you don't lose money.
Right.
But I don't think they'll do that because the smaller teams need those games for money now, supposedly need them.
Right.
If you look, a lot of times you'll have teams that they don't even fill half the stadium. They make all their money off TV.
Mhm.
So if you televise less games, they're losing money. So they're never going to vote for that. I agree with you. Like I said last night, I lost faith in the Phillies so bad I didn't watch them, and I got MLB TV. I've watched them quite often, but every so often I'm tired of it because it's just. And I watch the Red Sox, and I've watched the Orioles a few times. Mets Yankee series is always fun to watch.
Yes.
No matter who you root for, or if you don't root for either of them, that's just a good fun series to watch. And I like listening to the Mets announcers; they're pretty good. And I did like the thing for a while with Keith Hernandez and saying that the Phillies don't play fundamental ball, so I don't want to announce their games. And for about a week or 10 days, they were doing great. Now, I don't hear anybody mentioning Keith Hernandez's criticism. I just don't. Keith might have been, he's got a right to his opinion, and okay, right about now, I can't see that you could fault him. I root for him and I don't want to watch him.
Yeah.
So baseball's got some issues, but I think you're going to look at the Dodgers, the Mets, the Braves in the National League. Cardinals have taken over the Central, but I don't know if they're, to me, a real threat. They got 2 or 3 good bats, 1 pitcher. That's it. In the American League, I think you're going to look at Houston, the Yankees. I think the Blue Jays may sneak in as a wild card. In the Central, I'm not even sure. The Twins were on a roll, but now they've taken a nosedive. So I don't know if it's Cleveland. White Sox are trying to creep back in, who was everybody's pick at the beginning of the year. But I think you'll see it come down to Houston and the Yankees playing for the AL championship. The Dodgers and either the Braves or the Mets. I mean, San Diego's in it, but they're not consistent as a wild card.
Right.
Even if the Phillies sneak in, they're going to be gone in game 1 probably. The only reason they might sneak in is if they win a few more games against the scrub teams coming up.
Well, that and you got to average 10 runs a game. I mean, that's
yeah. For them, they got to average 10 runs a game, and right now the bats are cold, so they got no shot. Yeah. If they can't wake up, I mean, they got Harper back, and they still can't do anything. So, and everybody's got to remember he had a couple base hits, but it's going to take him a while to get back into the form he might have been in before.
Yep.
I mean that some injury with screws in it. That's some pretty serious stuff to get over when you're hitting. So that's where I'm at. I think Houston's a better overall team, but the Yankees could outslug anybody on any day, especially if they get Stanton back from injury. So the Mets pitching, and they always say pitching beats good offense, and you got Scherzer and DeGrom at least. So, and then the Dodgers, Kershaw's been pitching off and on, hurt with a bad back. Couple guys they had have been a little shaky. So we'll see what happens. Freed's been pitching well for the Braves. So I think it's going to be either the Mets or the Braves against the Dodgers in the championship. Yeah, and I'm thinking Mets only because of the pitching.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree with you.
Yeah, it could very well come down to the Mets and the Yankees in the World Series, which I don't like the Mets. I don't like the Yankees, but the Red Sox stink right now. Your team is, if they stay on track with the young guys they're getting and can continue to improve like they are, they may only be 2 or 3 years away from being a World Series threat, buddy.
Yeah,
I really do. I really like the way they're building right now, as long as nobody interrupts that. I like the process they're going through. The process. There you go. Speaking of the process, we've only got a few minutes left. We can mention a couple NBA things. Is Kyrie Irving going to play in Brooklyn, or is he going to be traded? Durant's changed his mind, decides he wants to stay in Brooklyn now and be a quote unquote a partner for success. That was his quote. The Lakers, you got LeBron. Are they going to trade Westbrook? Because apparently that's not going well. And they have a new head coach. See what happens there. Anthony Davis is supposed to be back. They're going to be your top stories, no matter who does what. I mean, it's always the Lakers, even though they don't make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and they were still the probably most covered team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Philly. And of course, the union is investigating Harden, and so is the league, for taking less money so that they could sign some better surrounding players. The guy's sacrificing salary.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything illegal, but because he wants to play on a better team, and that's basically the only thing left in his legacy. So I'm sure that's what it is. He wants to win a championship. I don't blame him. They did go out and get a couple of good role players. PJ Walker, who's really good, I think. A couple other guys. I'm surprised they kept Harris. I thought they were going to trade him for something, but they don't have to. He's serviceable.
No, he's solid. Yeah.
I just think he's overpaid, but he's solid.
Mm-hmm.
And if Embiid can stay healthy, I love Maxey. I love not Tyrese. Yeah, Tyrese Maxey. Thibault as a defender is great. I don't think you lose too much by losing Simmons. And there's another story in Brooklyn. Is Simmons going to play? Is he going to be traded? Is he going to yell for his mommy? I don't know.
He needs to go play overseas. That's what he needs to do.
He can make a heck of a lot of money playing in China, playing in Europe. Go back to Australia where you're from. He can make some money there. And I'm not saying go back to Australia because he left basketball. I'm just saying that's where he's from. So he'd probably be happier in Australia. So who knows? And maybe, apparently him and the Sixers came to a settlement about how he was handled there. So I'm sure he's got enough money for life.
Mm-hmm.
So go be happy. But we'll see what happens there.
I was just reading on LeBron. He agrees to a 2-year, $97 million.
Are you kidding? $97 million?
97 million, 2 years.
All right, so that's almost 48 a year.
That's insane.
That's nuts. How are the Lakers going to get any better when you got a guy that's getting over 45 mil a year? How are you going to have any money in that salary cap to get more players? Now, right now, I'm sure for 2 years it might be fine because the guys you got under contract, AD's probably under contract. But in the NBA, these guys can say at any time, I want to be traded or I'm not going to play.
Yep.
And they've made so much money, they can afford to sit out and not get paid.
They have the leverage.
Yep. I mean, Kyrie Irving didn't want to get vaccinated and he could afford it. So he probably missed more than half the season last year because he couldn't play at home for a while. Then he couldn't play in Canada. I mean, these guys, I want them to work in security at a college. I want them to work IT at a hotel and see how much they like it. Making not peanuts. 47 million a year.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Peanuts.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Not even shelved. You got to do that yourself.
Yeah.
What a bunch of crap. And last but not least, but only if, and you have more info probably on this. Well, two things. One is the NHL. Been a lot of player movement this year,
Yes.
but I don't see that a couple of teams did much. I think Tampa helped themselves again. Man, people just want to go to Tampa and play ice hockey. I can't
Yeah.
believe they want to go to Florida. But I guess when you think ice hockey, you think tropical ice hockey.
Yeah, tropical.
But they've got a great arena and they got a great team. They got a
Yeah,
chance to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, better than what our team is, you know.
Ooh, the Phantoms, I mean Flyers, the minor league. I mean
Yeah.
I mean the Flyers' big move was hiring Tortorella, coach.
Right. Yep. They got
That's their big move. I think they got one free agent, but nobody spectacular, and maybe a couple trades.
They're stuck in the salary cap thing.
Stuck in the salary cap,
and there's
there's
still some big names out there.
Yeah,
that,
but they can't.
They can't.
I can't believe PK Subban's out there still.
Subban's out there.
Subban's out there. And that's a big name, and he's probably going to be a reasonable salary if you can sign him for 1 year, because he'll probably sign a 1 year prove myself deal.
Yeah.
There's guys out there, big names that are still like that. They want to prove themselves. So you can sign them to a reasonable contract. But like you said, Philly's stuck behind the 8 ball with that salary cap issue, luxury tax, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, but it looks to me like it's probably Tampa Bay, Colorado, Ottawa might be able to sneak in there somehow because they had a good off season, it looks like. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, a couple of teams might help be a little better, but looks like a lot of teams are going to be treading water again.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Flyers will even tread water. I think they're going down with the fishes.
I think after this year, they really clear up some space.
Clear up some space, maybe clean house a little bit.
So they're several years away, but hopefully they start improving soon.
And
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, last but not least, NCAA football starts in earnest this week. There were a few games last week, but it's really going to kick in this week. So that should be some interesting stuff there too, because players can leave now under the licensing agreements. They can get paid by sponsors and alumni. Kansas State, I know, picked up. I joked that it's his 93rd year of eligibility, but it's Adrian Martinez from Nebraska, who was Nebraska's starter, knew he was going to beat out. So now Kansas State has him. He's really in his 6th year of eligibility. 6th, because he's been redshirted at least 2 times, I think.
Wow.
So it's supposedly, unless he gets hurt again, his final year of eligibility. So he's going to play at Kansas State. But
and I think they should be compensated some, because they all those years of college was making on their money, their jersey,
absolutely,
name, and everything.
Absolutely. I mean, how much money did teams like Alabama, for years, USC, when you had all them great running backs and quarterbacks and wide receivers when they were a powerhouse, Notre Dame, how much money did those schools make? Miami in the 80s. They all made Penn State's linebacker stuff. I mean, they've all made money. So yeah, the schools were making millions off these guys, and they were, if they're lucky, getting legitimately, I should say. There were some who went around that on their own, but if they did everything the way they were supposed to, they were getting a college scholarship. That's about it. And don't get me wrong, college scholarship is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
A lot of these bigger schools, they wouldn't have got in if they couldn't play ball.
Right.
And if they did, and they didn't get an academic scholarship, they were going to be paying a lot of money, but nowhere near what some of these guys made back for the schools.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Now they can get some money. It's not from the school. It's not really from the NCAA, but there is a way, and it's been found for them to make money. And I think they had to, because I think they could see the Supreme Court at some point was going to say, these are adults. They're performing and they're risking injury, severe injury, where they might not be able to do a profession afterwards. you look at college players, we'll say you got 1,000, you got more than that, obviously. Say out of every 1,000 players, what, 2 or 3 might make the NFL?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the guys are playing for that, but the chances of making it even from college to the NFL are pretty slim.
Yeah.
So, they have to worry about their lives after this. They're playing for that hope and dream, but they're also risking some serious injury. And the colleges are making, like you said, so much money off of them. It's only fair. And it is like work. And that's what the players proved is, look, we've got to go to practice sometimes 5 or 6 in the morning. Then you still have to do all these drills. You have to do all this stuff. Then you got to take your classes and do your
You
homework.
got to do all your homework. Yeah.
Yeah, you got, and if you don't do that, you're going to get kicked off the team,
Yep.
supposedly, because you'll be ineligible.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good point that you make, that they have to get some compensation for that, and I think that's right.
Yep.
I don't see anybody new across the scroll getting traded or
Yeah.
Jared
I just want
Pink
just
with that job. I'm
just
sorry,
just real quick. I want to give a shout out to the best Philadelphia team there is.
I was just going to say, you're going to talk about the Philadelphia Union.
And they're on
That was-
tonight, so I expect you to watch them tonight at 7:30.
I don't
So,
think I'll get them. What channel are they on?
Well, it's PHL 17 here, so I
I
don't
won't.
know.
Yeah, I
don't
won't
know,
get it.
but it might be
If
on
it's
ESPN
local.
or something. I'm not
Might
sure.
be on
It could
ESPN
be.
Plus or something. If it's on
Yeah,
ESPN
so,
Plus, I can get it.
But I'll tell you what, they're exciting to watch. They've been winning 6-0.
Yeah.
For soccer game. That that's phenomenal. So
And I've been kind of keeping an eye, I admit, on Premier League.
Mhm.
Some of that stuff, the
Mhm.
championship. I kind of watch. I've always had. I do not know why. It must have been because maybe I watched the game a long time ago and I thought they played as well as they could. But I always liked watching Man City.
Yeah, that's Ty's team.
Is
Man
it?
City.
I've
Yeah.
always rooted for Man City. Almost bought a Man City jersey. Almost.
Yeah.
But I'm like, people are gonna go, hey, Manchester City, how about I got no idea. I gotta defend my shirt. If I can't defend my shirt, by the way, folks, let us know if you want. I gave you all the info before. You can get from the Cheapseats t-shirt or shirt.
That's what we got here.
We got it. The logo's right there from the Cheapseats, baby.
Speaking of the Premier League, I got real quick.
Yeah.
There's Leeds that plays
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
There's a kid that went to Medford High School, who played for the Union, got bought out by Salzburg, and then Leeds bought out him. So he's playing over in Leeds. A 21 Premier League, 21-year-old from Medford, kid from Brendan Aronson, great kid.
Wow,
great kid.
That's awesome. And for you,
and he scored a goal in his first.
Did he really?
Yeah, yeah.
Good for him. That's awesome. It's good that if you can get an American to crack the Premier League, it really helps American football, soccer's reputation, because they look down on American soccer and American football, and probably rightfully so. I don't know about looking down on them is the right thing, but they don't think they're as good as European and international soccer because they've been playing it forever. The Americans haven't.
Right.
But that reputation, little by little, is starting to fade because of players like this young man. So that's great.
And the ones on the downside of their career over there are coming over here and playing in MLS. So
right, they are. I mean, that goes back to Pele.
Yeah.
I mean, way back to Pele. But then you had Beckham and Wayne Rooney. And isn't he going to coach a team somewhere or manage a team somewhere?
Yep.
So you've got some decent players, that come over here now. And it's cool when American guys actually get accepted and become part of a team and get to play over there and make a contribution. It's like, hey, maybe these guys are pretty good. So that'd be great. I'll look tonight and see if I can see it, because it can't, it's probably better than watching the Phillies.
Actually, it is on. Let me say, I think it is on ESPN Plus. Yes.
Okay, so I think I can get that.
7 o'clock.
But I might be able to get that by the end of the day because I'm probably going to make a phone call anyway.
Okay.
I was going to try and do without ESPN, but I admit I'm jonesing like a heroin addict without a needle. You know what I mean? I got to get it. So, I tried to replace it with Fox, but I just don't like Fox Sports
Gotcha.
that much. Their football's fine, but other than that, I don't, and they don't cover everything. I think that's about it, buddy, that
Yeah.
I have anyway. I think you're going to see Alabama against Clemson again, or Georgia, one of those three, for the NCAA football thing. So
Mhm.
even talking much about them, unless there's a big surprise, is not really worth it for 10 or 12 weeks.
Right.
Hey, Alabama's 9-0. Hey, Clemson's 9-0. They're going to meet this week. Then it might be worth chatting about.
Yeah.
Until then, probably not, unless there's a major upset or something. I like Kansas State because I like their program. It's a clean run program. I like the guy who got it up and running. Years ago, Bill Snyder, stadium's named after him. He was an athletic director. He's a straight up older guy now, but a straight up true blue guy, and ran a very clean program. And so I do, they're near me, but I do like them. I don't like Kansas because first off, they hired Charlie Weiss, not Charlie Weiss. I think it was Charlie Weiss at one point.
Charlie Weiss.
And then before him, there was this guy who big as a house, but he had no football brain. I don't know why they hired him. And then last year they hired Les Miles and had to cut him loose because of all the crap he did before. So, with recruitment violations and all kinds of stuff. So, so to me, I like watching Kansas State in the Big 12. Some pretty good football in the Big 12, I'll tell you. But I think that's about all I got, buddy, unless you got something to add real fast.
No, I think we covered quite a bit on our first show back.
Yeah, I think so. Next show will be about our season picks for the NFL, which is always the biggest sport in America. It's the biggest spectator sport, folks. I'm as much as I love baseball, and they say it's America's pastime, and there's a lot of American history surrounding baseball. When you look at it now, football is number one by far, the biggest spectator sport. So that's where we're going to be next week, just focusing on picking the teams to win their divisions, the playoff teams, and we'll take it all the way to say who we think's going to be in the Super Bowl and win it. And then, of course, we'll probably have to change it right before the Super Bowl because our teams didn't get it. But we're not the only ones that have to do that. That's for sure. So I just want to say thank you to you folks for tuning in. You're obviously watching us on YouTube, or you're listening to us. You could be watching us on Facebook too, or you're listening to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere, or on it just left me. Where'd it go? Simplecastradio.com. All under Public John Media, and then the show is going to pop right up for you with that emblem right there that you see behind me, and on Bill and my shirts from the Cheapseats. Woo-hoo. So from the Cheapseats, we're just going to say thank you. Have a great, I don't know if it's going to be a week. I don't think it's going to be a full week, Bill. Probably only going to be a few days.
Yeah.
But enjoy some baseball.
Yeah.
Watch some preseason football if you want. Check out the waiver wires and see if there's any trades or anything. And by the time we get back, we'll be ready to let you know what's going on.
Yeah.
So for my pal Billy Smith, thanks, Billy. I'm glad you're feeling better. He's recuperating from a little procedure, but he's
Thank you,
doing
John.
all right.
I appreciate it. It's good to be able to do something again.
Yeah, I didn't do anything again, right? We hope you stay healthy, buddy. I can't do this without a partner. So
Thanks.
so we appreciate it. We will see you guys next week or sooner.
And have a nice, safe Labor Day, everybody.
Oh, that's right. By then, yeah, Labor Day's coming. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next time on From the Cheapseats. Hear that music? My band is inside this thing.